Right guys, it is another day and we are back for some more Championship transfer rumours. We've got a bunch to talk through in today's video. Loads of stuff to go over in terms of managerial speculation, done deals, and of course the transfer rumours. If you've seen any going around in the Championship that we don't mention in today's video, get them in the comments down below. 500 likes will be massively appreciated, and if you're not subscribed already, make sure to go ahead and do so. But without any further ado, let's jump in. So we've had some big news regarding the Hull City job. Michael Beale has been interviewed for that role, and according to reports, he's impressed in the interview process. Now, the Hull owner hasn't decided whether or not to hand him out the job yet, and they still will be interviewing some other applicants, but it seems like he's a bit of a front runner for that role at the moment. And Hull fans, I'd like to get your perspective on this one in the comments down below. Obviously, Beale is a manager who we've seen a couple of times in the Championship previously. Started out at QPR really well, but then just made the wrong career choice to leave them when he did. Moved to Rangers, that move didn't work out, and then his stint at Sunderland was absolutely disastrous. I mean, no doubt that there is a good coach in there, but career-wise, we've seen him make some bad decisions recently, and that has to be taken into consideration. Also, the fact that in his 3 managerial roles that he's had so far in his career, he's not lasted particularly long in any of them for whatever reason. So with a club like Hull, who have had a pretty high turnover of managers in recent seasons, could I see him sticking around at Hull for the long term? I'm not sure. And it also looks like former Norwich boss Johannes Hoff-Thorup could be set to become the new QPR head coach. Now, this is quite an interesting one. Norwich made the bold decision to part companies with the coach, obviously, towards the end of the season. By no means, flawless, but I do think QPR would be getting possibly a better and more polished, more experienced manager than Norwich had last season. Obviously, it was his first season in English football last season, and I do think he would have learnt quite a bit from that whole experience. But QPR fans, what's your general reaction to that one? It's been reported that Southampton have agreed terms with Will Still to become their new manager in the Championship next season. Obviously, Still has been linked with plenty of Championship jobs over the years, a really highly rated coach from his time in France, and an exciting appointment this one for Southampton. Obviously, a lot's going to need to be done there over the summer to get them sort of back up and going after how bad last season was in the Premier League. It's also been reported that Russell Martin is in advanced talks to become the new Leicester City head coach going into next season. Once again, in a similar vein to Southampton, a lot's going to need to be done at Leicester over this pre-season period to prepare them for the Championship next season. But Martin already got a track record of being in the Championship, a promotion on his CV fairly recently with Southampton. But this does potentially leave Sheffield Wednesday boss Danny Roll in a bit of a sticky situation, because he's been speaking quite a lot about his future recently, and obviously it's been well documented that both Southampton and Leicester have had an interest in the Wednesday boss at some stage over the past few months or whatever. But with both clubs seemingly going in other directions, it doesn't look like Roll will probably have any other suitors in the Championship going into next season. A move to the Bundesliga, back to Germany, could still be on the cards, but Sheffield Wednesday just need to know basically as soon as possible, does Roll plan on sticking around at Hillsborough next season? Because if this drags out for much longer, the preparation going into next season is really going to be hindered at Wednesday. In terms of some done deals, we've had confirmation of Burnley purchasing Zian Fleming after the forward spent the season on loan at Turf Moor. We already knew that this one was going to come to pass anyway, since Burnley had the obligation to buy for around about £7 million, but it has been confirmed, and obviously that money now will be going to Millwall. We've seen Birmingham confirming a permanent deal for Alphonse Samsted after the Icelandic fullback spent the season out on loan with Blues in League One. And we have had confirmation of Hector Cipriano signing for Watford on a free transfer. Really good bit of business this by Watford, getting it done early in the window. I think it'll be where a lot of Championship clubs are shopping this summer in the free agents market. The fact that he's only 23 years old has shown that quality that he's capable of stepping up to the Championship in previous years. I think that one ticks a lot of boxes for Watford. But those are some of the done deals that have gone through in the Championship recently. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into some rumours. So we've got both Southampton and Coventry who are interested in a deal for Aston Villa fullback Kane Kesler-Hayden. Obviously, speaking as a North End fan, I've seen a lot of him this season. He was our best player, swept our awards really, winning the Player of the Season, Young Player of the Season, Fans Player of the Season. He was by far our best performer. Now, it has been reported that Coventry would be prepared to pay £5 million plus add-ons for the 22-year-old, and Southampton have since come into the race to sign him. Obviously, from a Southampton perspective, they'll have Kyle Walker-Peters, who's expected to move on. Interesting for Coventry, of, though, obviously, Van Eyck has made that right back, right wing back spot his own in that Coventry side, but seems like they're looking for a bit of competition in that place, or even, you know, could be tempted to cash in on him. Kesler-Hayden is still someone who's definitely not the finished article by any means, but he's got all of the right sort of abilities that you want to develop in the Championship. In a few years from now, yeah, he could be an absolute top performer at this level. I mean, absolutely no doubt about that. Speaking as a Preston fan, I don't think any of us ever really envisaged getting him back at the club because he was always going to be out of our price range, really. But for a top Championship club, I think someone like Kesler-Hayden would be a really good investment. Seen it reported that Swansea are reportedly one of the clubs interested in Luton forward Carlton Morris. It'll be interesting to see what Morris decides to do this summer, whether he's going to be sticking around for, you know, next season in League One with Luton, or if he is pushing for a move back to the Championship. I think it's fair to say that he, along with the vast majority of that Luton squad, didn't have a particularly great year this time around, only scored 8 goals in the Championship, but in previous years gone by, he has been a really good performer at this level. He's 29 as well, so at a good age for a fellow Championship club to take a bit of a punt on him. Swansea are also said to be keeping tabs on Ollie McBurney's situation, obviously with Las Palmas being relegated from La Liga. The striker will be available on a free thanks to a relegation release clause in his contract. However, it still seems as if Hull City are the front runners to land the striker's signature. It's been reported that Hull are in talks to sign the striker, despite not having a permanent manager as of right now. That's not going to be slowing Hull down in churning out the signings this summer over these next few days, it would seem. We spoke about McBurney a little bit on last time's video, and he is a tough one to put your finger on. His goal scoring numbers aren't always particularly great. He can be very hot and cold in front of goal, but someone who knows this level quite well. And when you do get the right players around him, he can be quite effective. Looks like Jeffrey Schlupp could be playing in the Championship next season. After all, the Crystal Palace man was heavily linked with a move to the Championship back in January. In the end, nothing materialised on that front. You had the likes of Coventry, Stoke and Blackburn who were all vying for his signature. In the end, he went out on loan to Celtic, but he's set to become a free transfer at the end of the campaign, and it's now Leicester City who are one of the most predominantly interested clubs. Would be a bit of a romantic return for the 32-year-old, considering that's where he started his career. Not sure how this one will go down with the Cardiff fans, but Wrexham are supposedly interested in Ollie Tanner. Now, the good news for Cardiff is that Tanner only signed a new deal with Cardiff back in October. That contract is valid until the summer of 2027. I do think while we will predominantly be seeing Wrexham being linked with older heads this summer, they will be making a conscious effort to lower the average age of that squad and looking to pick up young players who have a bit of experience of playing in the Championship, and Tanner ticks a few of those boxes. Don't get me wrong, he can be very hot and cold, and I think that was the case for, you know, Cardiff this season in the Championship, but got something about him, only 23 years old as well, can play in a few different positions, and is someone that Wrexham could look to develop if they got that sort of deal over the line. Wrexham could even look to strike a bit of a double deal here, as they've also been linked with Isaac Davis from Cardiff as well, a fellow 23-year-old. Once again, another player who can be a little bit hot and cold, but does have a fair bit of Championship experience considering he's only 23. It has been reported that Birmingham do indeed want to sign Rangers defender Ben Davies on a permanent basis going into next season. However, the fact that Rangers are currently looking for their next permanent boss is holding up any potential negotiations. Now, to be honest, I'd be surprised if Rangers were looking to keep hold of Davis. He's not been a particularly successful signing for the Scottish club. He's only got 1 year left on his deal at Rangers as well. So you'd imagine if Birmingham were prepared to pay a reasonable fee that they'd be happy to let him go. But the fact that they've not got a manager at the moment is seemingly holding up things now. I do think Davis will be a really good acquisition for Birmingham on a permanent basis. He's still at a good age at 29. He's got tons of Championship experience, 151 games he's played in the second tier previously. And whether or not he'd be a starter next season, because I think Birmingham will look to strengthen in multiple positions and have real squad depth going up to the Championship, I think he'd be a really good option for Blues. Left-sided centre-half, offers them that balance. He's got a bit of quality on the ball, can ping a diagonal ball like it's no one's business. I think it would make sense for both clubs really to get that deal done. There are plenty of Championship clubs taking an interest in Hearts fullback James Penrice going into this summer. You've got the likes of West Brom, Southampton and Watford, who are all supposedly interested in the 26-year-old. He is under contract until 2027, although with the level of interest in him at the moment, he is expected to leave this summer, it would seem. And it wouldn't be a proper Championship transfer window without Josh Windass being linked with a move away from Hillsborough. Well, the latest club interested in the 31-year-old is Valencia. That's according to reports in Spain claiming that Carlos Corberán would be interested in bringing the forward to La Liga. Listen, this season he's been Sheffield Wednesday's most productive forward, scored 13 goals and got 5 assists. assists. Sheffield Wednesday have exercised their option to trigger another 1-year extension in his deal, so he's still under contract with the club until 2026. So you'd imagine Valencia would have to cough up a fair bit in order to get him out of Wednesday. But as is often the case with Windass, when a new summer transfer window rolls around, there's always speculation, isn't there? Stoke City have reportedly made an inquiry about signing Luton Town midfielder Lamine Fane. Now, we've not really seen that much of the 21-year-old in the Championship. He only played just over 580 minutes of football last season in total, 6 starts and 6 appearances off the bench from January onwards. Luton did spend a fair bit on the Spaniard in the first place, signed him for just over £3 million, so any potential finances for this deal, it would be interesting to see what he's sort of worth now, because like I say, we've not seen much of him in the Championship. Along with Stoke, you've also got Club Brugge, who are reportedly interested as well. And it does seem like Ryan Ledson could be dropping down to League One. There has been plenty of interest in the now free agent former Preston midfielder. You've had the likes of Plymouth, Oxford, Bolton, Hibernian, Portsmouth all linked with the midfielder, but it seems like Huddersfield are in pole position to land his signature. They have been in talks with the midfielder, and to be honest, I think he'd be a really good asset for a side like Huddersfield, who will be fancying themselves for a top 6 finish next season. You know, they want to improve on what was a really underwhelming campaign in League One last time. Ledson, someone who is massively committed, limited on the ball in the Championship, but in League One, I think he'd be a real asset. You can see why quite a few top League One clubs are chasing his signature right now. But there you have it, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you've seen anything else going on in the Championship, make sure to let me know about it in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.